What if the universe isn't just stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine? This question is the beating, bleeding heart of cosmic horror. It's a genre built on a single, terrifying idea: that humanity is just a speck of dust in a vast, indifferent cosmos, surrounded by forces so alien and immense that even a glimpse of them could break our minds. For decades, that dread had a name: H.P. Lovecraft. His stories of ancient, tentacled gods and forbidden books set the gold standard for a unique kind of fear. It wasn't about death. It was about the soul-crushing discovery of our own cosmic irrelevance. But something is stirring in the shadows of storytelling. That old, familiar dread is changing. It's mutating. Lovecraft may have laid the foundation, but a new generation of creators is building something far more unsettling on top of it. They're looking past the old haunted houses of New England and finding new, terrifying ways to tap into our deepest anxieties. This isn't just an homage to the past. This is an evolution. We're watching the birth of a new cosmic horror, one that's more insidious, more personal, and maybe, just maybe, even more terrifying than what came before. So forget what you think you know. We're about to investigate the projects and the visionaries who are redefining existential dread for our time. The abyss is staring back, and it has a new face. The most merciful thing in the world, a writer once said, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. But we are voyaging. We can't help it. Every new scientific discovery, every philosophical question, every crack in the thin layer of our perceived reality, it all pushes our tiny boat further out into those black seas. And the things we're starting to see in the depths, they're no longer just the nightmares of one troubled author from Providence, Rhode Island. They are reflections of our own chaotic, uncertain world. To understand where cosmic horror is going, we first have to go back to where it all began. And you can't talk about cosmic horror without talking about Howard Phillips Lovecraft. He is the undeniable architect of the genre. A man of staggering imagination and equally staggering prejudices, Lovecraft was a product of his time, unnerved by the rapid changes of the early 20th century. His horror wasn't about ghosts or vampires. It was a deeper, more intellectual dread. It was the fear that science, in its endless search for answers, would uncover a truth so awful it would shatter the human mind. Lovecraft's work really boils down to a few key ideas that define the genre for a century. First, cosmic indifference. In his stories, the universe isn't evil. It just doesn't care about us. We're like ants on a sidewalk, and his famous entities, Cthulhu, Azathoth, Nyarlathotep, are cosmic forces that could wipe us out without a second thought, or without even noticing we were there. This was a punch to the gut of the human ego, a direct assault on every system we've ever built to convince ourselves that we matter. Second, the idea of forbidden knowledge. Lovecraft's heroes are almost always academics or scholars who find some ancient book, some weird artifact, or hear a whispered story that opens a door to a reality they were never meant to see. Books like the Necronomicon weren't just plot devices. They were symbols of knowledge that bites back. The real horror in a Lovecraft story isn't just seeing the monster. It's understanding what it means, the total demolition of your worldview. That's why madness is everywhere in his work. The human mind is a fragile thing, and it can't process the true, chaotic nature of reality without breaking. The terror wasn't that something monstrous was breaking in. It was the realization that the world was always this terrifying. And finally, you have the aesthetic of the indescribable. People often criticize Lovecraft's writing as being too dense, but that was the point. He'd throw out words like non-Euclidean, cyclopean, and eldritch because he was trying to describe something that language simply couldn't capture. The real horror was supposed to take shape in the gaps between his words, inside your own imagination. After all, what you don't see is always scarier than what you do. This blueprint was revolutionary. Lovecraft took horror out of Gothic castles and dropped it right into the modern world. His influence is massive, touching everyone from Stephen King to filmmakers like John Carpenter and Guillermo del Toro. For a long, long time, to make cosmic horror was to walk in Lovecraft's shadow. But a shadow can also be a cage. And Lovecraft's legacy is messy. His racism and xenophobia aren't just a footnote, they're baked into his stories. The fear of the other in his work is often a direct reflection of his own bigotry. So, this created a problem at the very heart of the genre. How do you build on a foundation that is both brilliant and broken? How do you evolve a genre that is so tied to the anxieties of a man from 100 years ago? For a new generation, the answer wasn't to ignore the foundation. It was to smash it and rebuild it into something new, something that reflects our anxieties. The evolution began as a rebellion. So, how did this rebellion start? It wasn't an overnight thing. It was more of a slow, creeping realization among creators that the core ideas of cosmic horror, existential dread, fear of the unknown, were more relevant than ever. They just needed to be cut loose from Lovecraft's very specific and very problematic worldview. The first big shift was to confront the genre's ugly past head-on. A key moment here is Victor Laval's novella, The Ballad of Black Tom. He retells one of Lovecraft's most racist stories, the horror at Red Hook, but from the black protagonist's point of view. Suddenly, a story about xenophobic panic becomes a powerful statement on the real-life horrors of racism. It asks a chilling question. What if the eldritch monsters are actually better than the society you re-forced to live in? Matt Ruff's novel Lovecraft Country and the incredible HBO show did something similar, blending the fear of cosmic monsters with the very real terror of Jim Crow America. These stories didn't just add diverse faces. They flipped the script, arguing that for many people, the real monsters aren't from beyond the stars. They're right here on Earth. This new wave also started exploring a much more personal, psychological kind of dread. Classic Lovecraft kept his characters at arm's length. Modern cosmic horror, though, turns inward. It's less about the monster and more about the emotional fallout of seeing something you see and comprehend. Think about the movie Annihilation. The Shimmer is a perfect cosmic horror concept, an alien force that isn't evil. It's just rewriting reality in a way that is utterly terrifying. But the film's real power comes from its focus on grief, self-destruction, and the human psyche. The horror isn't just what The Shimmer is, it's what it reflects in the characters. The story suggests that our emotions, the very things Lovecraft saw as meaningless, might be the only lens we have to process a new, terrifying reality. You see this in other films, too. The Endless uses a UFO cult stuck in a time loop to explore breaking free from toxic relationships. The Void mixes gut-wrenching body horror with a crushing sense of cosmic helplessness. These stories get that existential dread isn't some abstract idea. It's a deeply personal feeling. The terror comes from watching the world you know and the people you love become alien before your very eyes. And then there's the interactive space. Video games have become an incredibly powerful medium for this stuff. A game like Bloodborne is a masterclass. It doesn't just tell you about forbidden knowledge, you actively chase it. You gain insight, which lets you see the hidden horrors of the world, but it also makes you more vulnerable. The game brilliantly turns a core Lovecraftian theme into a gameplay mechanic. The more you know, the weaker you become. Similarly, the game Control drops you inside a secret government agency that deals with paranormal threats. The headquarters itself is a work of cosmic horror, a building of impossible, shifting architecture. The horror isn't from jump scares. It's from reading the redacted files describing objects that break the laws of physics and the unsettling feeling that our normal world is protected by the thinnest possible veil. These works, in books, film, and games, have built a new canon. They've proven that cosmic horror can be inclusive, emotional, and psychologically deep. They kept the unsettling core of the genre, but threw out the baggage. And in doing so, they've set the stage for an explosion of creativity, with a whole slate of new projects ready to push the genre into even darker territory. So that brings us to today, to the bleeding edge. The evolution of cosmic horror is picking up speed, and a wave of upcoming projects promises to dissect our modern anxieties with terrifying precision. This isn't just a trend anymore, it's a movement. Let's start with movies. The studio A24 has become a powerhouse for innovative horror, and their brand is built on the kind of atmospheric dread that defines this new wave. Keep an eye on films like Heretic, about missionaries who find themselves in a hellish game that could easily pit faith against an incomprehensible, malevolent force. Then there's The Looming, which taps into the fears of aging and reality itself breaking down. Perfect soil for existential terror to grow in. A24 gets that modern audiences want more than cheap scares. They want to be fundamentally unsettled. Of course, you have to look at what Jordan Peele is doing. He dove headfirst into cosmic horror with Nope. The alien, Jean Jacket, wasn't an invader. It was just a predator, an animal that saw humans as food. It was a perfect picture of cosmic indifference. While his next produced film him set for a September 2025 release is described as an anti-sports horror movie, Peele's track record of blending genre thrills with sharp social commentary means any project he touches is one to watch. And then there's Mike Flanagan. He's a master of character-driven, emotional horror and a huge Lovecraft fan. While the status of his dream project, an adaptation of Stephen King's bleak novel Revival, is unclear, he is attached to direct a radical new take on The Exorcist for 2026. Imagine an exorcist where the demon isn't just a demon, but a window into a chaotic, godless reality. Flanagan is probably the director best equipped to deliver the kind of human-centric cosmic horror that has become so powerful. But the world of video games might be where the most ambitious cosmic horror is happening right now. The Sinking City 2, planned for 2025, promises to throw players back into a Lovecraft-inspired world, this time with more survival horror as a city drowns under eldritch influence. New projects are just as exciting. Games like Ritual Tides and Stygian. Outer Gods are using new technology to create photorealistic and terrifyingly incomprehensible worlds. We're even seeing the theme pop up in the most unexpected places. An upcoming anime series called Necronomicon and the Cosmic Horror Show, premiering in July 2025, seems to be a wild meta-story about a streamer who gets involved in a VR game populated by evil gods, including a Princess Cthulhu. It sounds bizarre, but it shows just how deep cosmic horror has sunk into our culture, twisting into new, strange, and even satirical shapes. In books, the evolution is being driven by authors pushing the limits of weird fiction. Keep an eye out for Cassandra Claus' The Library at Hellebore, which mixes dark academia with cosmic horror, or new work from John Langan, author of the masterpiece The Fisherman. S.A. Barnes is also continuing to carve out a niche in terrifying space-based horror with her novel Cold Eternity. So what's the common thread here? What ties a satirical anime to a gritty survival game to a psychological film? It's the shared understanding that cosmic horror isn't just one thing anymore. It's a toolbox. The unifying idea is no longer a specific monster, but a shared feeling, the cold, creeping dread that comes from looking over the edge of what we know and seeing the vast, terrifying, and utterly alienating truth of the cosmos staring back. Why is this all happening now? Why is a genre born from the anxieties of the early 20th century having such a massive comeback? The answer, I think, is that cosmic horror is almost perfectly designed to express the biggest fears of our modern world. We are living in an age of existential dread. just think about the forces shaping our lives. Climate change, pandemics, political instability, the dizzying rise of AI. These aren't simple monsters you can fight. They are vast, complex systems that operate on a scale that makes you feel powerless. That feeling of being helpless in the face of forces you can't comprehend is the engine of cosmic horror. The genre gives our abstract anxieties a monstrous shape. We're also living in the internet age, which has become its own kind of cosmic horror story. We're flooded with information, but the truth feels more unstable than ever. We're dealing with deep fakes, algorithms that manipulate our reality, and online rabbit holes that feel like gateways to madness. The internet has become our generation's Necronomicon, a source of both endless knowledge and a very modern insanity, blurring the line between fact and fiction. This new cosmic horror also reflects a big shift in our relationship with science. Lovecraft was afraid science would prove our beliefs wrong. Our fear today is a little different. We're in awe of what science can do, but we're also terrified of the consequences. We can edit genes, create intelligence, and look to the edges of space. But every breakthrough brings new ethical nightmares. The new cosmic horror isn't anti-science. It's about the terrifying responsibility that comes with godlike power. And finally, the evolution of the genre reflects our own evolving society. By moving past Lovecraft's prejudices, cosmic horror has become more inclusive and, because of that, more powerful. It recognizes that existential dread is universal, but it's often shaped by real-world horrors like racism and sexism. By telling stories from different perspectives, the genre becomes more specific and yet more relatable. The new cosmic horror isn't just entertainment. It's a vital genre for our time. It gives us a language for our anxieties and a way to explore our sense of smallness in a ridiculously complex world. It doesn't give us easy answers because our problems don't have them. Instead, it offers a strange kind of comfort. It tells us we're not alone in our fear. The monsters have changed, and the storytellers have changed because the fears they reflect have changed. But the abyss is still there. It's just gotten bigger, and its reflection looks a lot like us. But this investigation doesn't have to end here. The abyss is vast, and there are countless paths leading into it. What are the modern cosmic horror stories that have truly unsettled you? Are there any upcoming projects you think will push the genre even further? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep exploring this together. And if you want to go deeper into this new canon of cosmic horror, here's your list. Read The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval and The Fisherman by John Langan. Watch Annihilation and The Endless. And if you're feeling brave, lose yourself in the worlds of Bloodborne and Control. Explore these works, and you'll see the terrifying, brilliant evolution of a genre that is more alive than ever. Cosmic horror has come a long, long way from the troubled mind of H.P. Lovecraft. It's shed its old skin, confronted its own dark past, and re-emerged as one of the most vital forms of storytelling we have. It has evolved from a genre about tentacled gods into something much more intimate, a mirror reflecting our most modern fears. The horror is no longer just about being insignificant to the cosmos. It's about the struggle to find meaning in an age of information overload, systemic chaos, and technological vertigo. The next wave of films, games, and books shows that the genre's potential is endless. Creators are no longer playing by the old rules. They're mixing cosmic dread with social commentary, psychological realism, and deep emotional truth, creating a new grammar of fear that speaks directly to us right now. They're proving that the most terrifying monsters don't always come from beyond the stars. Sometimes they come from within us and the worlds we build. Cosmic horror isn't just Lovecraftian anymore. It's a collective, evolving nightmare being shaped by countless new voices. It doesn't ask us to find comfort. It asks us to find a strange and profound solidarity in admitting our own fragility. It challenges us to look into the void, to face that terrifying possibility that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine. And in that terrifying, exhilarating moment, the genre finds its power. The evolution isn't over. In fact, it might be just getting started. The darkness is spreading, and it's asking us to look closer.